Yo, we are live and in effect. Shout out to everybody. Hey, if you were here yesterday, I was talking a lot more than I'm probably going to talk today, but I'm mixing the final track that I have to do heavy shit for more time. The last track on EK's. I actually love this song, and I think we got faded or at some point when we recorded this, and I never finished mixing it, but I want to change a lot of things in this mix because it's like a year and a half ago, and there's just a lot of new shit I'm gonna do. Go grab something. I'm gonna be right back, and we're gonna get into it. I'll even just play what's going on right here. It's like a half mixed track, a lot of unmixed shit. So yeah, we'll just play this file as it sits. Yo, yeah. Hey, shout out to CTB and Zoshil. Zoshil, I remember you from stream. CTB Frost. Hey, if you need to learn to mix, I'm gonna be mixing a whole track. So this is how it sounds right now, and I'm gonna be right back. And then in like 1 minute, after you hear how it sounds right now, we're gonna make it sound good. Would you spend more time with me if I split this line like tequila and that lime? It's so that's how it sounded so far. There's some processing on the hook that I did. I see here it looks unfinished, and I've got some shit going on the master bus. There's a couple sends going on, but I'm about to just kind of delete most of that shit. Yeah, pretty much almost all of it. We're gonna go from the top. I mean, it doesn't. The music is good, so you can still jam to it, but we want to get this like sounded clean, you know. So I'm not even gonna go over the shit I got here. I'm just gonna, as I go through the shit that I'm adding, so we'll kind of treat it like from the top. So here, we're gonna reset a lot of channel strips. Yeah, let's just delete. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Up, and that's gonna be it. Let's throw hawk instead of hook, and I've also got hawk on the verse. I'm gonna organize a little bit first. A lot of people don't do this. Hey, what's up? Absolutely, yeah, that's what this is for. Yeah, so this would be dope as fuck for you to watch. I'll just kind of go through it. A lot of this shit, like I'll choose parts to focus on and not. If you got specific questions on shit, just ask. But the biggest thing that I like to say it's the beginning of all my shit, and I was talking about this the other day. Hell yeah. The best is just, if you can, it's not even a bad idea to even just start making shit if you got like an iPhone or some shit, getting apps and stuff new and shit on there. I'll fuck around with shit that I make in those sometimes too. Obviously, eventually, you want to get on some shit like a digital audio workstation on a computer. But so, the biggest thing with all this stuff is you got to learn some technical shit, but it's not the end. The biggest thing is sticking with the thing that gets you into music, which is the feeling. Like, this song already feels really good, so we just want to enhance the feelings that we get from it. So with all that, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to organize this shit a little bit better. Because a lot of times, when I make the song in the studio with someone, I don't want to spend time doing this because I need to record them. But if I get a chance, it really like to visually see everything organized and like clean looking. And so I like to color coordinate real quick. You can do this any way you want. There's not a right or wrong way. I found for me, I like it to kind of be like a little cascading thing. So I'm gonna go like this. Come on, do what I'm saying. All right, perfect. So first thing I like to do, I start on the mix bus. So the mix bus, these are all my tracks, right? Each one I've got the beat over here. So we got a stereo instrumental, right? So he doesn't have stems, which means it doesn't have the drums and then the keyboard and then the this. We just have one big file, which is fine. I mean, ideally, they'd say you want everything, but a lot of rappers, this is all they're going to have. And as long as it sounds good, we can work with it. And the cool thing about it, too, is you can't change it, so don't focus on it. There's little things you can do if you really need to, and if we need to do something, we'll go through it, but I already know this beat sounds great and it was mixed good. So because of that, we're just going to set it to a good volume, and we're going to leave it alone. So I'm going to put it over here. Most beats, if it's mastered, I'll just put it at -12 real quick, and it'll be fine. So we got that up, and then I want to start with the hook, because that's like the highest point of energy in the song. So we're going to get the hook sounding good, and then we're going to build from there. So I'm just going to go ahead and loop the hook. So I got some things going on my mix bus. I'm turning them all off, and we're gonna redo the mix bus. Hey, that's the realest shit of all time. Thank you so much, Shanisha. I feel like I need to focus on making it sound like I'm in a stew, even though I'm on iPhone band lab. So I'm not gonna say gear can't hold you back. I wouldn't say that, because no more parties in LA, the Kanye song. I like they did more than just make the song on the iPad, but the beat was made on an iPad. Like the guy made a beat on an iPad, showed it to Kanye, and they put it on, and he recorded it in a nice studio and everything. But the more shit I have, it just gives me more options and ways to do things. But you only need so many things to do different things. Now, you'll notice that most of the time people use a lot of the same shit. You see, the same 4 or 5 synths, etc. If you're on BandLab on your phone, you can still make a solid ass beat. Like right now, this song, as far as getting it sounding good, one of the biggest things is how you hear shit. So, for instance, I've got a lot of like acoustic treatment in the room to make the room sound good. Because if the room doesn't sound good, I don't truly hear how the song sounds, so I can't make good decisions. And then even with that, I've got this. Where is it? I use SonarWorks. So I'm going to put this on first, and this is going to change the way we hear the song, because this is an EQ curve of my room that's been like measured with a microphone. This program, you do that, and it measures your listening position, and it adjusts the way the sound will, so it'll sound more true to its sound in your room. Because I'm just in a house right now, right? So this is a bedroom, so it's got like drywall. It's square. It's not totally square, but it's not the best shape for a room. So even with, I've got like a big curtain, I've got a lot of stuff to dampen the sound and make less reflections, but we're still gonna have issues. So this helps a lot. This gets us right about there. So with that, now we've got a more honest sound. Now before I do anything, so first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually throw all these faders. The fader is this little guy right here, the up and down, right? I'm gonna throw these all to 0. Labs. How to understand this? understand the signal stuff. I mean, honestly, it takes a long time and just lots. I mean, YouTube University really should. If you don't got nothing and you don't got really a way to like pay for something, or if you're like too young and you can't do it, there's a video for it all on YouTube. And I wouldn't go to school like pay money to learn it. I mean, I'm not saying it's a there's people that have gotten there from going to like Full Sail and stuff, but um, I didn't pay to go to any school. I've paid for like a couple different things, and they were all worth it. I for a little bit paid for. I didn't even think I paid for. I think I got like a long free trial to Pure Mix, which is a website where they'll teach you to learn stuff, and it's really good. And then I've had my mixes reviewed. I haven't had my mix reviewed like in like 2 or 3 years, but by like someone that's professional, and then going through my session and showing me like little things I could change, what I'm doing right, and you know, what I can work on. And the biggest thing that actually where I learned from there was setting up my sound right. That was the first thing the person noticed. Is like I was doing it right, but I wasn't able to hear it without using different headphones to hear different ways it could sound, etc. So with that being said, so what we're gonna do first, because I'm gonna mix the song top to bottom right now. So the first thing, it's more important than any effect, compression, EQ, reverb, anything like that, is how loud it is, the fader. So you turn something louder, you're gonna get also more low end and high end. So if you can get the sound sounding pretty good with just these already, we're gonna be much closer. A lot of times people reach for an effect before they just turn it up or down. So we're gonna start there. So I'm going to do something on all these tracks. So first I'm going to do is, I don't have auto-tune. I like auto-tune printed, so I don't have to think about it. So what we're going to do, we're going to put auto-tune on all of these. And then I'm going to add a little bit. So first thing I'm going to do, let's go over here. The first thing, this is a tape emulator. It's a UAD one, so it's really good. It's pretty expensive. You don't have to use this one, but just get one that is, you know, got good reviews. A lot of people sound good if you don't really know what you're looking for yet. And this is gonna give it the sound it would have if instead of recording digitally, it was recorded to tape. And the reason I'm gonna do that, it's gonna add very subtle. You don't really hear it too loudly. A subtle amount of distortion, not like a guitar or anything, but just a very subtle amount that would have naturally happened from the way it was recorded onto tape. Back then you would record things differently, and the more machinery it went through, the better the sound was, because it wasn't digital, it wasn't ones and zeros. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with ones and zeros, but it was like an electric signal being sent through copper wire. So if you sent it too loud, it didn't mess it up. It just kind of like sweetened the sound and gave it some, you know what I mean? So when you do that, the sound gets a little bit compressed. It gets a little bit of hype and push, and those things build up over time. So I like to start all my recordings with a little bit of that, and that means I have to do a little bit less work later, which is good. You don't want any one effect to be doing all the work. It's a gentle massage. That's why we're using so many effects in small amounts serially. You hear me use that word serial, which means doing something and then doing it again, but maybe a little bit differently, versus doing it just one time stronger, doing it 2 times less strong. It'll get us to a different place. So I'm going to do this to every track. And so I'm going to put that on there. And then I'm going to put on, let's pull up auto-tune. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I like to do it, for lack of a better term, the old-fashioned way. I'm just going to play the beat, and I'm going to figure out the notes with the key on the keyboard, and then I'm going to plug them into auto-tune. So I'll show you what I mean by that. It'll make sense real quickly. So we get our keyboard here. Oh, I use that in my song Jewel. I use this synth patch. That's funny. So I figured out the notes pretty quick. If you're gonna make beats and all this stuff, one thing that I would even tell you that's more important than learning all the mixing and shit, if you don't know already, if you can get yourself a little keyboard, or even if you can get the keyboard app on your iPhone or iPad, whatever works, if you can learn the basics of playing these keys real quick, it'll make everything easier because there's so much shit it applies to. In mixing with autotune, all this, writing vocal melodies, writing your beats. Just go to YouTube and look up how to play triad chords, and then it'll make it all make sense a little bit about how scales work. And the keyboard, I know it just looks like if you don't know how to play it looks like a bunch of random keys and shit, but the way it's laid out makes a lot of sense. It'll make doing these things. So I was able to dial that in really quick by just playing like 2 notes, and I knew the pattern that it would probably build out just by the song sounded. So I know the track was mostly on all the black keys were good, and so I knew it just had 2 more white keys, and it was always these end pieces, so it was B and E. All right, so we got that plugged in. With autotune, if you're making hip hop, a couple things you want to think about. Autotune, a lot of people have their autotune set fucked up. The number one thing is what I just did. Find the notes. A lot of people just turn on. They don't put any. You got to plug these notes in, otherwise it's gonna sound like shit. Some artists might sound it still sound good on, but it would sound better if you did this every time. And if they're not like hitting the notes perfectly and everything, and the autotune's not set, it'll sound way worse. So after that, there's one more setting you'll want to set for sure, and that's up here at the input type. We've got soprano, alto tenor, low male, and instrument. So unless you're doing an instrument, you obviously want to not fuck with instrument. Soprano is going to be most of your female singers. But that's not necessarily always going to be true. Some sopranos, if they're low enough, probably might be alto tenor. Low male, most men are going to be alto tenor. Low male, you use, obviously, we're talking like Barry White type voice, really low. People with voices like this, which you do run into some people that have voices like that, right? If you don't set that, this is based on pitch, so the formants in your autotune, which that might sound like big, weird words, long story short, it just won't sound as good. It won't carry the resonance. So for him, he's going to be alto tenor, right? And then I'm not going to... I plugged in my key automatically, so I don't need to mess with any more of that. So then after that, we got all these knobs here. We got 4 knobs. So we got retune speed, humanize, flex tune, and vibrato. In hip-hop, trap music, you know, this style of autotune, you can fuck with them if you want. I don't ever touch flex tune or vibrato. It's not going to get me where I want to go. I know what they do. I don't need that. But retune speed and humanize, definitely both used. Some people don't like humanize. It's really just a feel thing. Some artists will know how they want their autotune set. Some won't. Most won't. But some will. If they do, let them tell you and just do what they want unless it doesn't sound good. And then beyond that, so retune speed is your main thing. You know, if you got this set to 0, that's like T-Pain effect, which is not bad, right? But it might not be what they want. And you come over here to like 40, like 30 to 40. That's more like that Drake sound. I usually, most of the time, I'm somewhere between, depending on the song, as low as 10 or maybe even a little lower. And might go as high as like 30. But the sound I usually want, I'll probably start around like just under 20. That's there, 16, that sounds fine. And then humanize, it's hard to really explain what the effect does, but you play with it to taste, and it just kind of takes a little bit of that auto-tune edge off. A lot of the time, you don't need much of it. I've seen people turn it up way high and stuff like that. I usually like it probably somewhere between here at the highest, like 40. So we're gonna play with these settings real quick. This is fun because it's just turning knobs and hearing what sounds good. Nothing too technical about it at this part. That sounds really good. No auto tune.
Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line?
Turn on.
If I got you high, would you spend more time? You've been on my mind, you've been on my mind, lately you've been on my mind. You just spend more time, will you let me slide? Press against me, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see the chat just now. Hey, what's happening, Boss Killer? I don't use AutoKey because it's like $80, and there's not a way to steal it on Mac, so I just do it myself real quick, and it gives me a second to be in touch with the song and like learn the notes of it, so it's kind of useful. But yeah, normal keyboard or MIDI. I have a MIDI keyboard here. I want to get a better one, but this one was cheap and it has like 49 keys. It's the Carbon. The keys kind of feel shitty, and so I kind of wanted to get. There's a Native Instruments one that's smaller, but the keys feel better, and it has a couple more. It has a knob here, so I can shift between synth patches, which I really like to do. It's rather than clicking, I can just stay on the keyboard and switch through them. But you can get a pretty good, decent little MIDI keyboard. You don't need a big one like this big for like 50 and less, especially if you go on eBay, and it'll be fine. I got this on eBay. It's great.
Would you spend more time if I split the line to kill?
All right, so now that we got that without it, so I'm gonna go ahead and print this. So I'm gonna print these effects, and the reason why I'm doing this is when I'm gonna show my broke boy status. Is these are UAD effects, and so without this boring talk about DSP and computer power, I can't run too many of them at the same time, and I want to do this on all the tracks. Normally when I record, I print this onto my recording. So while I'm recording, it's doing this stuff to the track that's recorded, so it doesn't need to process it later. It's done it once, and then I don't need to think about it. I know it's fine. So at the time when I recorded this, I didn't do it that way. So, but I know I want to do that to all these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now that I know that setting's fine, I can run 2 of these at once. I'm going to start doing this to all these tracks. So this is that boring shit. Let's see. Okay, so this is hook main. Hey, later, Zoshil. Hey, what's going on, Morgan? What time is it in France right now? Shanisha, you know what's up. Like, if it's ever like a good time, I'm always cool if you wanted to pull up or some shit like that, or just like sit in, like while we're doing some shit. I'll show you whatever you want to know. And I'll even show you, like, I'll show you, if you need, I'll send you, like, the videos that were, like, helpful to me and shit. Let's see. This is a dub, I believe. Let me check these tracks.
Would you spend more time if I split the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time? You've been on my mind, you've been...
Yeah. Let's put these all to 0. I had all the faders set to 0. So this is like I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is the boring part of mixing shit sometimes. Sometimes you'll be doing some tedious ass shit. Jerry was in here watching us the other day. For those of you that don't know Jerry is EK, person whose song we're mixing right now, is his son, who is, I want to say he's 4, man, and he's funny, but the whole time he's like, why are we listening to this again and again and again? I'm like, man, that's part of making the fucking song, man. You're used to it if you want to rap too. She did a little rap last night for us. It was dope. Let's see this.
Would you spend more time if I split the line to kill her with the line? If I...
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and... Oh, and then hooked up to... Oh, that's right. He was saying that yesterday. He just turned 5. I got it. So I'm gonna use some presets in a second. I don't really use presets for people's voices because I kind of get to know them because I every track is a little different. So I kind of like to. I know what settings I'm gonna go for, and I have them set like my EQ curve. It'll be my EQ will be set up with everything already on like the frequencies I'm gonna go for, but I'm gonna physically put them there each time. I don't like, oh, just go set it and forget it completely. I want it to be close to that, but I put the fucking knob there and tweaked it to taste. So right now, what I'm doing, Morgan, because you appreciate what I'm doing, Oh, and yes, Jerry did lay down your tag. I've got your tag, Magic. I'm gonna send it to you. So Jerry did lay down your tag. What was I saying about? Oh yeah, I usually would have had these two things printed on the track when I recorded it. I'd have printed the auto tune and this tape I like to use, this UAD tape, but I didn't fucking do that because I'm an idiot, basically. Yeah, there we go. I didn't have that as part of my workflow at the time, and I know I want to do that to this, so I'm just gonna print it onto all of them before I start. And also, this session was unorganized, so it just kind of became part of it. You're stupid, Magic. That shit's funny. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do that right now. I'm just printing on this, these two plugins, mostly also because I got an Apollo. And I got a solo. I bought it like years ago, and I should have got the duo. I can't run too many auto tunes at once, cause I got the UAD auto tune so I can do it live processing. I want to say cause sometimes I think about selling this Apollo and upgrading to a better one, but I'm gonna save it because this will probably, if we want to use auto tune live, I'll bring this for live processing. Okay. All right. So we'll do the rest of this a little later, because I want to mix this down. Because even I'm getting like you guys, like, all right, come on, let's mix some shit. All right, got everything I need right here. So let's mix this down. So first I'm gonna do. So the way I like to do this is start with, and this is typically most songs, I'm going to start with this hook, wherever the hook is, usually highest point of energy in the song. I got my vocal preset here I'm going to throw on. And what I've got on my vocal preset, I mean, I've got a couple things that aren't that important, but the biggest thing, I'm going to have my EQ that's going to be like my surgical EQ, at least these two compressors, right? And then an after EQ that I'm using to boost, right? And then some excitement. But before we even do that, let's go to the mix bus. You been on my mind, you been on my mind, lately you been on my mind. You just spend more time, will you let me slide? Press against me out, would you like to fire? Spend your night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. With the line. Alright, so first thing I'm doing the mix bus, compression. Would you spend more time if I split the line? Take you with the line. If I got you out, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, will you let me slide? Press against me out, would you like to ride? Spend your night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you spend the line? Dealing with the line, if I got you out, would you spend more time? Would you on my mind? You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you let me slide? Press against me out, would you like to ride? Spend your night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Sorry, I heard an errant sound over here and it was annoying me. Let me get rid of that. Alright, so I got a little bit of something going on in the mix bus. Let me go over here, let me play with some EQ on it. I'm just gonna pull up the... I feel like producers always gotta like make an excuse if I just throw a preset on here, but this preset will probably sound amazing. Alright, now let's get on down to the we're gonna mix this vocal down now. Let's make this shit start sounding like a fucking song. Alright, so the biggest thing, you don't have to use this plugin, but so I really like Neutron because it's convenient. But so these two plugins I fucked with back here, they're just doing a little bit of cleanup for me. This one's got a gate, a de-esser. You don't need to think too much about these. A gate just makes it so the parts where he's not rapping, it silences it, so I don't hear like in the background someone like tap down this table or some shit. De-esser does what it takes out the S sounds by it's like a high frequency compressor. Don't think about it too much. You don't want to overdo it. I just put a little bit on there because I know how I recorded this. It needs it. I've got this little bit of compression over here is barely doing anything, just chopping off the peaks. So I just wanted to show you that there is some stuff back here, but the meat of this is happening in here. And what's happening in here is this is a channel strip plugin. So it's basically got a couple different effects within it at once. So it's like a multi-effect thing, right? So, you know, the sexy, fun parts of mixing, people think about like, you know, adding echoes and cool effects and shit like that. The meat of what you're doing is EQ and compression, like 80% of it. EQ is this thing over here with the little dots moving up and down and shit. And this is what turns up frequencies from like, I want to turn up 800 hertz or I want to turn down this much hertz. If you don't really know like how to know when to do that, don't worry about it too much. Just like know that like that's what it does, right? And then compression is gonna EQ you'll get faster than compression. Compression is just as maybe more important, right? I wouldn't compare them, and I would say they're both equally important. Compression is how dynamic it is. So how quiet parts are versus how loud parts are. Vocals are really dynamic, so they need a lot of compression. So like honestly, I learned how to compress by just trying. I didn't understand how to hear compression until I was just so focused on getting vocals to sound good that I learned compression. So you're gonna need at least 2 compressors on every vocal. Multiple layers of compression is like the name of the game with vocal. Typically with the vocal, I'm compressing it on the way in using I use an Avalon basically when I have the Unison plugin. So it's going through a thing where it's getting compressed when I'm recording it. Then it comes in, and then it gets a little bit of compression before this, and then I have these 2 compressors going hard. Then by then it's usually compressed enough. So I've got this first compressor working really fast with a softer ratio. The ratio is how like hard ass the compressor is going to be on sounds that are over the threshold. So a compressor basically you choose a number on how loud, and then if it doesn't go louder than that number, it stays the same. Nothing happens. The compressor doesn't do anything. If it goes over it, the compressor pulls it down to back under it. Now, it has to go over it for it to do that. So you can set the speed of how long it takes it to bring it down. And then when it's not bringing it down anymore because now the sound got quieter, how long till it lets go. That's attack and release. And then you have your ratio. Ratio is, if it's 2 to 1 and the sound is this loud and you've got it set to here, it's going to bring it halfway. If you've got it 6 to 1, it's going to bring it to 1/6 of the way. So if you've got it, set really to like a high number like 12, sounds aren't really going to go over that, so you're really compressing it, right? So the most important thing is where you set this number, and then after that your ratio. I use a really fast compressor that's not as strong. Like, it's still fairly strong though, a ratio of 3. And then I use a little bit slower but still pretty fast compressor with ratio 6 right after that. So those are my compressors in serial. On a vocal, I usually don't. It always sounds good to me. I just do those 2 things after my EQ over here. That's a bit more surgical. EK sing this song a little higher. Usually, I end up taking something out down here, and I might even just see if it sounds good. But the main part of his vocals right there, so I don't really want to take out from there. Let's see what's going on with the chat real quick. Which all-in-one plugin are you using? Is that like a Waves plugin? I mean, all-in-one's a weird word. I would call this a suite, I guess. So it has a range of plugins, but I don't think that there's like a plugin I can think of at any point where I'm like, I don't need to use any other plugins now. Now there's plugins that I've gotten that I'm like, oh, I don't need to do this and this now, So I don't see no problem with like these Isotope suites. Everything from Isotope I know is like, it's pretty fucking good. Like, there's nothing here where I'm like, oh, the quality's not good enough. It's mostly, do I like the UI? Like, as long as it sounds fine, do I like the way that I interact with it? And I really like the way that Neutron makes this. I want to get their new one. I really do like Isotope shit. But so, now that we went over what I did right there, so I'm going to come back, turn these both on. Now I'm going to give it a little bit of hype. That was muted? The fuck am I What the fuck did I do? Oh, I see what I did. Put some reverb on it. I feel like I've been bringing this up a lot lately because we were talking about it on the stream last week. If you want your reverbs to sound real, you gotta EQ them first. So, on my send, so I don't want to EQ the actual sound first, but so I'm gonna send this to this reverb over here. I've got 2 reverbs. I'm gonna have a short reverb because the blend kind of effect in your reverb, like that, like if you're going like, oh, I don't want the sound to sound like super like reverby, I just want to kind of glue it together, give it a little bit. That's in your blend. So that blend really only happens for like the first half a second, not really any more than that. So I always have a reverb there that could be at the very shortest like 0.33 seconds to the longest, I don't know, maybe close to a second. And that reverb is going to be my blend reverb. So I'm going to start with that, and that's not really going to give us these crazy reverb effects, but it's just going to give us that first splash of like realism. Because right now this vocal's so dry, it doesn't even sound realistic.
got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, lately you been on my mind. You just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, eye, would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you spend this line? Dealing with the line, if I got you high, would you spend more time with me on my mind? You been on my mind, lately you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, eye, would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time?
Really short reverb. It sounds like it's like a little room, kind of, right? So here's with it off.
Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line?
I'm gonna turn it on.
Would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, lately you been on my mind. You just spend more time.
His breaths are really loud on this song to the point where it's like, I feel like I gotta do something about it before I can even keep going. Let me fuck with that.
Would you spend more time if I spit...
EK's breaths a lot of times don't get caught by this deep breather. I don't know. He breathes like
would you spend more time if I...
But you can't. Here's the thing with these is if you cut them all the way out, his vocals are gonna sound super dead. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna come over here.
Would you spend more time if I... Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high. Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high.
You start to learn to be able to see breaths and S sounds really easily. That's for sure, breath, because it kind of builds up.
Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind.
See what I mean, though? Taking that out kind of takes away a lot of the hype. Makes it sound less alive, so I'm going to turn them down a little less. That's the cool thing about turning them down. It's more tedious, but you get, like, more control.
Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, lately you been on my mind. You just spend more time.
I feel like this EK, he just breathes loud, which is like, you know, it's part like K's vocals have like you start learning your vocalists. Like K's vocals are always really breathy, and you want to retain that, but you don't want it to be like all over the fucking mic, right? So you gotta do something to it.
Would you spend more time if I spit the line to kill her with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, lately you been on my mind. You just spend more time. Would you let me slide? Press against me, eye. Would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you spend this line? Dealing with the line. If I got you high, would you spend more time?
I'll probably be able to spot. Here, this is gonna be the next breath. That one's actually really quiet. I might leave that one. No, I'm gonna turn it down a little. I lied. I lied to you. I lied. Ah, shit. I don't want to be that zoomed in.
Would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind.
Oh, I think the deep breath caught that one.
Be what I desire. You been on my mind.
and it doesn't know it's a breath. But that's all right. That's what we're here for. That's why we're doing this shit. You wouldn't need an engineer if they didn't do that. I don't think it's crazy though. I think that in our lifetimes this shit will be automated, or people will still do it because people just have the aesthetic sense. But in our lifetimes we'll see these like ozone, the new ozone. My ozone doesn't have it, and my neutron have that mix assistant where it tells you it mixes it for you. But that shit don't sound. You put that shit on every track and tell me it sounds good. It does not. It just does the same thing to every track, so it's not very good yet. It can't get the concept of like just stall like the whole thing coming together. I love this like little vocal melody that this hook is. We'll just spend more time. Dealing with the line, if I got you high. We'll just spend more time with me on my mind. You've been on my mind, you've been on my mind. We'll just spend more time. Would you let me slide? Present gives me out. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times, get what I decide. You've been on my mind, baby. You've been on my mind. Yeah, man. I don't like autos. I honestly. I try to avoid doing as much automation as possible. EK is the only person I'm having to do this on. I really, and a lot of people swear by it. They think it's the only way to do it. I think it's useful to know how to do it and to be able to do it. But if I could avoid doing these automation things, I think, like you said, it's tedious. Plus, he was breathing a lot on this one, man. There's a lot of these. You can't appreciate how many there are unless you fucking do this. We made it through, guys. We're done with that shit. All right, let's get. Turn that to that. That's fine. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, because those breaths were just annoying me. If you don't do that too, if those aren't under control, I noticed it when we started doing the reverb. You'll really hear it. It keeps spitting all this high frequency into your reverb, making it sound like shit. So now that we got that, let's get the long reverb going. This is like the vibe, you know what I mean? So this one, I'm gonna be a little heavier handed down here, or up here rather, on the high frequencies. And I know I'm doing this silent right now, so I can talk on it, but once you do it for a while, you kind of know, like I know how this is going to sound with this reverb when I plug this in. That should be, let's hear that.
Would you like the fire? Speaking nighttime, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, we just spend this time. Dealing with the line, if I got you high. We just spend more time, we'll be on my mind. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more.
Alright, so we got a double dub over here, and something I like when I get these. You know how good that shit feels when you're done with some automation shit like that, bro. So, I got these 2 dubs of him doing it kind of higher here. We'll play them. They got no processing on them right now, so we'll just play them. We'll put them both to -6 real quick. Let's just hear how these sound.
Spend more time. You been on my mind. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you let me slide? Press against me out. Would you like to fire? Spend your nighttime. Be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Would you spend more time? If I spend the line to kill it with the lie. If I got you high. Would you spend more time? You been on my mind. You been on my.
I really recommend getting something you can get your hands on. I want to switch this thing. I've got a controller here. I want to switch this for a fucking iPad personally, but it's good to have something you can get your hands on, because I want to like play it and be able to do shit at the same time. The 2 things. Yeah. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna mix these. Kind of different. I thought they were the same. If they're the same, I was just gonna pan them both ears, and you'll get a really dope stereo effect that you can't get from like a plug-in when you get 2 different vocals that are just actually the singer singing it the same, but you know they just have every take is slightly different. So we're gonna instead of just panning them left and right though, since they're different, I'm gonna record automation of me turning these knobs and just kind of take it and turn them in so they go. You can't really appreciate this because you guys are hearing it in mono because it's coming out of my speakers going into a microphone, not the best, right? But that's what we're gonna do to this. So first, let's make these sound good. So with these, they're gonna be pretty close to the same settings. Maybe that. Nah, I won't. Yeah, they're gonna be pretty close to the same settings. Ah, shit, I did this again. Hold up. So all of these vocals, they need to be in mono. Let me set this all back to mono. Alright, so let's go ahead and cop. Oh wait, we wanted to. Let's put the echo on here. I got a delay that I want to. It's not. It's just like something subtle that it's gonna give to this main vocal. See, it even just sounds good with these in the. Oh wait, no. Remove plugins. It even sounds better just having those turned up a little bit right there, even without processing on them because the main vocal's carrying them. But we're just gonna get them, you know, in position. I use this one called the Carbon. Like it's nothing special. The MIDI keyboard you use, I would just get one. If you get like there's like the Akai MPK, that's like the most popular. You can get those pretty cheap. If you never had one before, honestly, like the next one I'm gonna get is gonna have less keys than this. 20. All you need is 24, 25 keys, and you'll be straight. And then as far as so I use Logic, and then I have Native Instruments Complete for most of my synths. Used to use Machine. I really don't use Machine anymore. I use everything else from Native Instruments though. Ever since Logic came out with their new update that had live loops, the live loop shit is amazing. I fucking love live loops. They effectively like made Logic also have like FL Studio built in. So since then, I don't even use the machine because everything I used to do on machine I can do in Live Loops. So Live Loops is just part of Logic. It's like their beat making part that they've added. I'll even show it to you real quick because it's not on here. So it gives you this section over here that you can put loops in on your left, and I can just turn it off when I'm not making beats. And then when you're making a beat, you can switch to like the elongated view. The reason why I don't just sit here and because I have a lot of shit that you don't really need that I've just like built up over time. If you're looking for what to get started, it depends on if you go Mac or PC. If you go Mac, I'll tell you to get Logic. If you don't go Mac, I'll tell you to get FL or Ableton to get started, depending on the kind of what you want to make. But like if I were to do it myself, if I was like I'm switching from Logic, I'm going PC, I would probably get FL and Pro Tools. Pro Tools for mixing, FL for making beats. It's probably what I'd do. But there's nothing wrong with like I would do Ableton or FL just because those are gonna have a lot of support, a lot of videos. They're most popular and they're great. A lot of people use them. Sound good. They have great synth patches that come with them and tools in them. Are awesome. But I use Logic. Logic's only on Mac though. That's the one thing with it. So we're just gonna paste our plugins on here and then we're gonna make some adjustments. So with these dubs, they're not supposed to be in the front. So we're gonna take the hype out of them so it's not like a buildup of frequencies. So I'm gonna take all those boosts off. I'm gonna bring this in just a little bit. Turn that up to 12 dB, and then I'm gonna shelve off some of this bottom. And see, these are quieter, so I'm gonna turn this compression down, and I want these to be compressed like a little bit more even. Okay, and then on both these we're gonna set up, go to our our sends that we set up over here, so our buses. So instead of thinking about the equipment, I know it's kind of harder. That's why I'd say get something that you could. Shanisha, you're the realest of all time. Yeah, really. Honestly, what Morgan just said is actually real as fuck. The only thing I don't have is Omnisphere because I can't steal it on a Mac. It's so expensive, but honestly, yeah, Omnisphere. It's basically with synths, bro. It's like Omnisphere, and then everything else is just kind of like you use some combination of shit to kind of be like Omnisphere. Like you got Silent, and then whatever your dog comes with, and maybe something else, and then Splice. Just get Splice. It's worth it. It's like $8 a month, and you'll just never need to buy a sample pack ever. You'll have all the samples all the time, always. You'll always have samples. Super easy to get them into your DAW. The little app they got where you can just drag them into your DAW, fucking awesome. Like. You really can't go. Splice is great. Native Instruments. I got a lot of Native Instruments stuff, mostly just because I used to have Machine, I still have it. It's right here. I'm just not using it. But Native Instruments has one called Sounds, but it doesn't work good yet. It's like in beta. But theirs is gonna have it to where you can drag in like it immediately pulls up in your Native Instruments shit and is like inside of your Native Instruments libraries, which are really nice. But so Splice is just where you go to get it's just a website where you go, you get samples. Omnisphere is like the top synth patch. If you got PC, you can just steal everything. I mean, if you're new and you're just getting started, just fucking steal it. If you start making money later and everything like that, I mean, you can come up with the moral qualms. I'm not telling you how to steal. I'm just saying, like, I don't judge you for doing it. There you go. I'm not telling you to steal. But so, yeah, Omnisphere. Besides Omnisphere, there's, Silent, the Native Instrument shit, like specifically Massive. I have Complete, so I just have all the Native Instrument shit, which is basically, since I don't have an Omnisphere, at least I have Complete. Because, yeah, really the only other thing you'd use beyond that would be contact instruments. Contact instruments would be the only thing I would maybe add into Morgan's thing. But if you have like those things, you've got everything. So like he said, like we were saying with DAW's digital audio workstation. So that's Pro Tools, that's Logic, that's FL, it's the program that you're making everything in. Honestly, like people say they're all equal. Like if someone showed me music and it was good, I wouldn't ask them like what DAW did you make this in, unless like we were about to play with music and shit like that. Then I would want to know. But you can make music on all the DAWs. That being said, as far as like which ones do I think are best, like the ones that are the one that's easiest for you to work with to make good shit. There's a lot of support. When I say support, I mean like you can go like, how do I do this in Logic? You could find that real quick on YouTube. Same thing with FL. Same thing with Ableton. Now, if you're in Sonar Cakewalk or one of those ones that no one uses, Studio One, like it's gonna be a little bit less support, but there's still a lot. So, if you're on PC, like for you Shanisha, for what I think you want to do, if I understand you correctly, if you're on PC, I tell you FL Studio. Bro, the Logic update that they did was the greatest shit of all fucking time. It was like the best thing that happened in 2020 because this year's trash. That Logic update with live loops, the new sampler is fucking the shit. What's QOL stand for? Quality of life? Quality of... I don't know what QOL is, but I bet you're right. So now that I got those set up, let's go ahead. We're just going to give it... I'm not going to give it as much feed into these buses. The cool thing about setting up your effects over here on a bus is you only need to set them once, so you're processing a lot less, and you have so much more control, and everything will sound like it's in like the same room. If you have a bunch of different reverbs that all sound fucking different on every track, then it's gonna sound like a bunch of weird like reverbs instead of just sounding like, oh, all these were in like the same room or something. I wish y'all could see right here, I'm turning knobs, and what I'm actually deciding to do is, since this one's like a dub, I'm gonna turn this one, I'm just gonna leave that one straight in the middle. It's gonna make me do this real quick. Hold up. Even if you have a good computer, you get fucking computer fucking problems. Let me do this shit. Hey, what's going on, Eloy? Oh shit, you're at work? Damn, they're fucking working you. I feel like if you're already into Mac, Logic is such a great price for how much it is, $200, and that's it. Like, and all the shit you get, yeah, especially now with live loops, it's out of control. I wouldn't say there's like a specific type to avoid. You just need to make sure you have a good processor. You do want enough RAM too, but like RAM you can upgrade later. The big choice is more of like, are you doing Mac or PC? Because that changes things. Neither are wrong though. I wouldn't say either are wrong. I mean, as long as your shit. I mean, besides that, the only other big thing I would probably make sure of is you don't want some shit with like one USB port and that's it. But you can get little fucking ports and shit. I have a little port thing down here that I got plugged in. Alright, so here's what's happening. I'm about to restart my computer. The stream's not going anywhere. I'll just be like right fucking back. Alright, tell me if I'm fucking back, but I should be fucking back. And honest, everything Morgan is fucking telling you is legit as fuck. Like, dude knows what the fuck is up. He's mixed tracks that are on Kush albums. Like, dude is legit. Hell yeah. Thank you. Alright, we'll get this track pulled back up. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Every once in a while my computer will just like, when it's doing some shit, it'll take a second, and then every time I press play, it'll just click. And I'm just like, I don't know. It fixes when I restart it. It's a badass Mac, but it has, no matter who it is. Like, I was watching Alex Toomey. He's a good person to watch. He mixes all Young Thug's music. He had a video where he was talking about the computer he mixes everything on, and he's like, I just don't want to switch it, and my computer was better than it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter that much. He's like, as long as it doesn't like make it so I can't make a good song, it's not a problem. That's because I got the free trial of the Hammer. That plugin's legit though, man. I'm gonna have to buy that Kush Audio subscription. That's another thing. There's a podcast I listen to that anybody that mixes music and wants to be better at it, I recommend listening to. Legit, probably the biggest thing that helped me actually get really good, I would say, is this podcast. It's a stupid ass name. It's called UBK Happy Fun Time Hour. If you just listen to it, it's just like people just send them questions and then they talk about what to do. That's literally it. And they're just like kind of goofy and shit. But like the guy that makes these Kush audio plugins is one of the guys, which is like a major plugin company. And then his friend that works with him, that's a professional engineer. That he just mixes a lot of music and movies. It's like those two guys. So a guy that makes plugins and a guy that's a mixer. And they both just like answer the questions. Learn just from hearing them talk about it, you'll learn a lot because they break everything down to like the basics of it. And that's where I get a lot of this shit from, where I'm saying like, don't, like, I'm gonna talk about technical shit, but the technical shit's not what's important. The important shit is making music that people feel in their fucking bodies. You know what I mean? A good thing to find early on too is people that you can like look up to, that you can kind of pick like from their like psyche on this shit. I really like listening to Mike Dean, Alex Toomey. Those are probably the two that I listen to the most. Oh, and Young Guru, Mixed by Ali. I like them too a lot. But Mike Dean, his like philosophies around it, which is basically like, don't think too much. You know what I mean? Just make good ass shit. That really helps me think about it and keeps me in perspective.
Will you spend my time if I split the line to kill it with the line? If I got would you spend my time if I split the line to kill it with the line? If I got you high, would you spend my time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. You just spend my time, would you let me slide? Press against me out, would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend my time, would you spend the line? Kill it with the line, if I got you high. Would you spend my time, would be on my mind? You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend my time, would you let me slide? Press against me out, would you like to fight?
One thing you'll notice when you pan things, the more you pan it, the quieter it gets. And it'll straight up be like that in mono. But, I mean, it really does. It makes it quieter when you pan shit. It's just kind of like the way sound works. So you got to think about that. Now, I put it on, this is what caused the whole restart shit. Is sometimes Pan Man makes me have to restart my computer. But I do love this plugin. And it's very simple. It's a Sound Toys plugin. It's just an automatic panner. It has a lot of cool settings, like presets in it. I really like, like a staple of mine is sometimes I'm just like, I want this shit to pan. I want it to feel equal. I don't want to do a lot of automation work. Well, I'll come over here into Pan Man, and they got a setting in here called Pendulum Pan that is set to like a random time to just go like a pendulum, equally back and forth. I'll come in there, set it to rhythm shape instead of rhythm step, so it'll have a rhythmic shape to how it moves. And I'll set it so it's like a sine wave, and it'll just go like that for every bar or 2 bars. And that'll give me a nice smooth, it's just gonna move back and forth between ears, and that way I have a, you know, something panned. If I don't have 2 of them, I don't want to do automation. I just know I want it to be equal but move between sides, and it'll be on time. It works very often for me, and it's got a lot of like quick, easy ways to move around with it. They don't give me any money or anything. I just like this plugin, so I just threw that on there. Came back, opened up the file, and I'm like, I like the way that sounds.
Will you spend more time if I split the line to kill it with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, yeah, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, will you let me slide? Press against me, would you like to fight? Spend your nighttime, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you spend the time?
I feel like I'm getting too much high energy buildup, high frequency energy buildup for sure. Yeah, that is what it is. It's sometimes you gotta remember to give your ears a break because you'd be listening to shit too long and you lose perspective. It's easier to do that with your ears than your eyes. So.
Will you spend more time if I split the line to kill it with the line? If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, yeah, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, will you let me slide? Press against me, would you like to fight? Spend your night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you spend the line? Deal it with the line, if I got you high, would you spend more time? Would be on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, would you like to fight? Spend your night times, get what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, would you like to fight? Spend your night times, get what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. With the line, if I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, would you like to fight? Spend your night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more time, would you spend the line? Deal it with the line, if I got you high, would you spend more time? Would be on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Would you spend more
We're gonna send all the. I'm putting all the effects on the same bus, so they all output the same thing. Hey, what's good, Claudio? Does Pancake do the same thing as Pan Man? Just pan things around? I feel like I've heard of that.
Would you like to fight? Swinging
sorry. I was just doing some intent listening. Well, I'm not sorry, but sometimes you just gotta do that. Oh, for real? I haven't fucked with anything from Cable Guys, and I've heard about them a lot. I know a lot of people use them. I probably need to fuck with them next time I'm looking for shit. That sounded like shit right now, right? I had these backwards. I don't know how the fuck it put 11 before 10, though. Like, that shit didn't make sense to me, but I probably did it somehow. Yeah.
You've been on my mind, lately, you've been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you let me slide? Present gives me all. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times, get what I decide. You've been on my mind, baby, you've been on my mind. Night times, get what I decide. You've been on my mind, baby, you've been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you spend this time? Dealing with the line. If I got you, if I got you high, would you spend more time with me on my mind? You've been on my mind.
plugged in. I'm like, that shit goes. Years to play tricks on you. You gotta catch yourself.
Would you let me slide? Press against me out. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times. Be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Spend more time.
What's up? Who's here?
Food.
Oh, there's food?
Yeah.
Oh, can you bring me some?
You're gonna spill everywhere?
Okay, never mind. Hold it for me.
Hey, stop it. This is mine.
More time. Would you let me slide? Press against me out. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times. Be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you spend the line? Dealing with the line. If I got you high, would you spend more time? Would be on my mind. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind.
This decapitator distortion plugin is really fucking good. And it's got these 5 settings that are based off of like 5 like really famous analog models. I've never worked with all that shit. Like, I've just made music on my computer the whole time. But people that are really, like, used all the shit and been in the studios all the time probably able to tell you a lot about them. All I know is, like, I know this N1 is for the Neve. But, and I don't know, I think that makes me, I like not knowing because it makes me not have preconceived notions about it. Because other people will be like, oh, this needs a Neve and shit like that. And I don't know, I just try to make it sound good. This T1 goes hard a lot of the time. I don't know about... Maybe, and this is where everybody's just different. Like, I don't know, as long as you're able to think critically and kind of hear, like, the little subtleties and shit and focus on it and, like, the space you need it to fit in. Like, for me, I find this shit working in a lot of space. So I'm just kind of, like, fucking with that because I've been turning this distortion up in it. I kind of like it. It's only on the effects. It's not on the vocals. It's just on the effects. Usually I wouldn't do that much of this, but I feel like it's going with the... It's, like, matching the rhythm. You know, driving me crazy, but...
Spend more time. Would you let me slide? Press against me out. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times. Be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind.
Because that beat is like so much.
Spend more time. Would you let me slide? Press against me out. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times. Be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you spend the line? Dealing with the line. If I got you high, would you spend more time? Would be on my mind. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Would you spend more time? Would you let me slide? Press against me out. Would you like to fly? Spend your night times. Be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind. Spend more time. If I spent the line, to kill it with the line. If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind. You been on my mind, baby. You been on my mind.
doing?
You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, we just spend this line. Tequila with the lime, if I got you high. We just spend more time, when be on my mind. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, out, would you like to fly? Spend your night times, get what I decide. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Spend more time, you been on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, out, would you like to fly? Spend your night times.
We've been pushing the. I've been pushing. Or I've been pushing the vocal a lot to kind of, the vocal. I like my vocals to be fucking loud, personally, and because that's what people want, man. People just want people just want like the vocal to be bad as fuck and loud, and to have a hot beat with some good drums, So, anyways, it has like this buildup down there, you know what I mean? And it's in like that 300 like boxy woolly cotton like area. Like it doesn't sound like, if you have too much of it, it just overcomes everything, and not in a way like that adds like weight and like credibility, like a thick low end from like an 808. It's not in a good way. His vocal, if you looked at it, let's pull it up. Where is it? So on the frequency shit, if you look at it, this is the way you use the kind of tools. Like you want to use your ears mostly, but your ears are the final judge, but the tools will help you kind of like figure out what the problems are at. See, right around where this shit is peaking, that's the bass formant, like the lowest note. Like the way a sound wave is it repeats just like the piano repeats. Like A is A up here, right? So like you get the same every 12 notes. That's like happening across here. So a sound, though, eventually has like the first one it started at. So the lower someone's voice is, the lower this thing will be. He's saying this in a higher register, so the bass, like formant, resonance, what have you, is at like 300 hertz, around there. So in this beat, we gotta build up. Let's bring that closer to 300 and see what that sounds like. This is such a small little, like, make sure you have your plugin set this way, because the way this plugin comes sets at the bass, this is where I talk about the tools, right? How did I change this shit? Oh, it's not like that no more. Never mind. Forget what I was about to say. It used to be that you had to set it to be the way that I have it set. But basically, that's a lot to take out of a full beat. Out of vocal, that's nothing. But out of a whole thing, it's got the drums, it's got everything on it. To take out like 2 dB, that's a lot. But as soon as we cut that out, this vocal just sounded so louder. I've been pushing the fuck out of this vocal to get it to compete. And we can probably dial some of that back, and it will sound better.
Would you spend more time if I split the line? Tequila with the lime. If I got you high, would you spend more time? You been on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, out, would you like to fly? Spend your night times, be what I decide. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind.
I'm gonna put Neutron on there.
Baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, we just spend this line. Tequila with the lime. Press against me, ah, would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, we just spend this line. Dealing with the line, if I got you high. We just spend more time, when me on my mind. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, ah, would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. Spend more time, you been on my mind, you been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. You just spend more time, would you let me slide? Press against me, ah, would you like to fight? Speaking night times, be what I desire. You been on my mind, baby, you been on my mind. We just spend more time, we just spend this line, dealing with the line. If I got you high, we just spend more time, when me on my mind. You been on my mind.
Oh shit! I haven't even checked out the chat. Sorry, I've been like knee deep in this mix. Cable Guys and Silent Toys are the same shit? Oh shit, that halftime shit sounds like I want it if it's what I think it is. Oh shit. Oh yeah, as you were saying that, I pulled up Neutron to see if there's any more fucking clashing and shit. Yeah, Shanisha, for real, I'm gonna be going live all the time, and then for real, if you need anything else, just hit me up, or you can even if you want to like pull up one time, you can like I can show you everything in the studio that I'm using. You can even bring me your computer. I can show you shit you can put on it now. So, all right, I'm actually about to sign off. I've got this hook sign about where I want it, but I need to go off and get this food, and then Craig's pulling up actually like right now to do some more recording for the tape that him and EK got coming out a little bit. Probably like we're looking at like November-ish, so it's off for a while, so we're not really promoting it right now, but that's what we're working on.